Some monks, when they hear I say that stream entry can be attained just by listening to the Dhamma, they are not happy. They say, how can? They say, you must meditate. They say, Buddha's time is different. Buddha got psychic power, ma. Buddha speak, can make people understand. It's not necessarily true. Because, first I tell you about how it's not so difficult to attain stream entry. In the Sarakani Sutta, in Samyutta Nikaya 55.24, there was a Sakyan by the name of Sarakani who passed away. After he had passed away, people came to ask the Buddha, where has Sarakani gone for rebirth? So the Buddha said, oh, Sarakani has gone for a good rebirth because he's a Sotapanna, first fruit attainer. So the news spread. When the news came to some people's ears, they were not happy. They say, this Sarakani, he often drinks liquor. He can 5 precepts also cannot keep. How can he be a Sotapanna? If he can be a Sotapanna, we are all Sotapanna already because we don't drink. So the news came back to the Buddha, and the Buddha said, why can't Sarakani be a Sotapanna? He has taken refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha for a long time. In other words, he has listened to the Buddha teaching for a long time. And then the Buddha said something quite surprising. The Buddha said, look at those trees. Don't talk about Sarakani. Look at those trees. If I were to teach Dhamma to those trees, and they can understand what I say, even the trees can become Sotapanna. Why not Sarakani? So you see, the Buddha emphasized that if the trees can understand his words, understand his Dhamma, they can become Sotapanna. The Buddha did not say, if I taught the trees meditation, they can become Sotapanna. Yeah? So it shows very clearly, it is by listening to the Buddha and understanding his words that you become a Sotapanna. Yeah? So that is the Sarakani Sutta. Another one in the Vinaya books. Devadatta schemed to kill the Buddha. So he asked the Prince Ajatasattu to give him some men to do some work. And the Prince Ajatasattu called quite a number of people and told them, whatever this Bhante wants you to do, you just do it. So Devadatta called the first man and told him, you go to the forest in such and such a place, you can find Samana Gotama. You go and kill him and come back by this road. Then after this man had left, he asked 2 men to wait for this man to come back and kill him and come back by another road. Then he asked 4 to kill the 2, asked 8 to kill the 4, asked 16 to kill the 8, so there's no trace, no evidence linked to him. So the first man went off, went into the forest where the Buddha was, and then he was surprised to see the Buddha sitting there waiting for him. He got a shock. He thought the Buddha must know what he's coming to do. So he threw away his weapons and confessed to the Buddha. He said, I got no intention to kill you, but I have been ordered to do so. So the Buddha said, never mind. You sit down, I will teach you the Dhamma. So the Buddha taught him the Dhamma and he attained stream entry. Then the Buddha said, you don't go back by that road. 2 men are waiting for you. You run away somewhere. Then the 2 men waited and they could not wait anymore. They came looking for him. Similarly, they came to where the Buddha was. And they were also surprised the Buddha was waiting for them. And then similarly, they threw away their weapons and bowed to the Buddha. The Buddha said, sit down, I'll teach you the Dhamma. Buddha taught them the Dhamma. They also attained stream entry. 4 came also attained. 8 came also attained. 16 came also attained. You see, such people can attain stream entry. I think it should be better, isn't it? So it's possible for you. So this again very evident. Then there was another time where the Buddha converted 1,000 jatilas, matted hair ascetics. The Buddha initially, when he started to gather disciples, he looked for those people who had attained jhana. So these jatilas, they practiced jhana, even though they had wrong view. But because they practiced jhana, some of them had already attained psychic powers. So when they attained psychic powers, the ego rose. So the Buddha knew it's not easy to teach them. So the Buddha went to stay with them for several weeks and showed psychic powers to them. Over time, then they came to realize the Buddha's psychic powers are much better than them. For example, one morning, the leader, Kassapa, out of respect for the Buddha, he went to invite the Buddha for the breakfast. The Buddha said, "You go first, I'll see you at the dining hall." So he went. When he arrived at the dining hall, he saw the Buddha seated there, waiting for him. And the Buddha was holding a flower and offered it to him. And look at this flower, I had never seen this type of flower before. The Buddha said, "I just went to the Tavatimsa heaven and got this flower for you." He was shocked, so fast. So because of this, over time, all of them had great respect for the Buddha. So when the Buddha knew that the time was ripe, the Buddha told him, "Kassapa, you keep thinking you're an Arahant, but you are not an Arahant." This was like a slap in his face. Nobody dared to challenge him like that. People thought he was an Arahant, and he also believed that he was an Arahant. So he knew the Buddha's meaning. He bowed to the Buddha and asked to be a disciple of the Buddha. So the Buddha accepted him and he shaved off his hair. You know, these method hair ascetics, they keep their hair very long and put in a bundle, like my grandmother used to do, the nonya stuff. So the long hair threw into the river. The hair floated down. His other disciples downstream, when they saw the hair, they got a shock. They thought somebody killed their teacher. They ran and looked for him. Then they found him, bald-headed, and knew that he became a disciple of the Buddha. So they asked him whether it's better, and he said it's better. So all 999 also shaved off their hair and became disciples of the Buddha. After that, the Buddha taught them just one sutta, Adita Pariyaya Sutta, the fire discourse, because they like to pray to fire. A lot of Hindus like to pray to fire, even up to now. And it's what the Tibetans also do. That's why they kung for, make offerings to the fire. So when the Buddhas talk about the fire discourse, basically like the world is on fire. What fire? Fire of greed, hatred and delusion. So slowly as the Buddha explained this discourse, they became enlightened. 1,000, just hearing one discourse only, became enlightened. So you see the power of listening to the true Dhamma. There are many cases like this. So after this, the Buddha brought these 1,000 Arahants to Rajagaha. Because before the Buddha was enlightened, he passed through Rajagaha. King Bimbisara saw him, was very impressed by him, and found out that he also comes from the royal family, the warrior caste. So King Bimbisara asked him to stay in Rajagaha. He would support him all his life. But the Buddha was not looking for offerings. The Buddha was looking for enlightenment. He didn't want somebody to be attached to him. So the Buddha left. But then the King Bimbisara asked him to promise that if he attains enlightenment, to come back and teach them. That's why he came back with the 1,000 Arahants. So King Bimbisara was very happy. Threw a big lunch dana for him and asked all the people of Rajagaha to come and see the Arahants, because it's a rare sight to see Arahants. So according to the Vinaya books and the suttas, 120,000 people came to see the Buddha. After the meal, the Buddha gave a discourse basically on the 4 Aryan truths, and all 120,000 attained stream entry. They're not scientists or engineers or doctors and all that, no. They're just old aunties and uncles. So it's not so difficult. Another occasion, a group of 80,000 people, they heard about the Buddha and they came to see the Buddha. First time. And the Buddha discoursed to them also on the 4 Aryan truths. Also all 80,000 attained. And then many individual cases in the suttas, in the Vinaya. So it shows it's not that difficult for lay people to attain stream entry. The important thing is you have to listen to the right Dhamma. The Yen Shi Fo Jiao, the earliest 5 Nikayas in the Pali Suttas, Digha Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya, Sangyutta Nikaya, Anguttara Nikaya, and Khuddaka Nikaya. I have spoken on these 5 Nikayas in English, all 5 Nikayas over the years from 1997 until 2015. And in Hokkien, I've spoken on 4 Nikayas. Yesterday I brought the SD cards, today I didn't bring. But tomorrow night when I give a talk in NDR, if people want, you can go there and get it from me. Or you can look up YouTube, you can get them. So, there are some people, they say that during the Buddha's time is different. When the Buddha taught the Dhamma, because of his psychic powers, people attain stream entry. But now they say mana boleh. But it's not true. Why? Because there's evidence in the Vinaya books. The 2 main disciples of the Buddha were Sariputta and Moggallana. And they used to be external sect ascetics. I think their teacher was Sanjiva. So one day, Sariputta, at that time was called Upatissa. He was walking on alms round. And then he met Asaji, also going on alms round. Asaji was one of the earliest 5 Arahant disciples of the Buddha. So when he saw Asaji, the Arahant, he was very impressed because being an Arahant, his face was different, very bright and very serene, and nowadays they say awesome. So Venerable Sariputta went up to him and asked him, Bhante, who is your teacher and what does he teach? And then Venerable Asaji said, friend, I've just become a monk under my teacher recently only. And I know very little Dhamma. And then Venerable Sariputta said, it doesn't matter whether it's little or much. Please tell me in essence what your teacher taught. So he said, my teacher taught all Dhammas arise from conditions, all Dhammas cease from conditions. Chu fa yin yan sen, chu fa yin yan miet. Yeah. So Venerable Sariputta, being such an intelligent person, realized it means that everything in the world arises from conditions. It was not suddenly created by somebody. It arose from conditions and will cease from conditions. And then he attained stream entry. So he found out from the Arahant where the Buddha was and all that, and then thanked the Venerable Asaji and he left. Went to look for his friend. Then Moggallana, Venerable Moggallana saw him and he explained to Venerable Moggallana what transpired. And Venerable Moggallana, just hearing the same words, also attained stream entry. So you see these 2 cases. Venerable Sariputta did not hear the Dhamma from the Buddha. He heard it from an Arahant and attained stream entry. Yeah, and it's not exactly the words of the Buddha also. The meaning is the same as the Buddha's teaching. Now in the case of Moggallana, he did not even hear it from an Arahant. He heard it from a new stream enterer. So you hear it from a new stream enterer, the important thing is the right Dhamma. Also can become a stream enterer. Yeah. So it's not true, only during the Buddha's time. You listen to the Buddha, you can attain. Any time you can attain. As long as you listen to the true Dhamma, the 5 Nikayas. Yeah. So after a person attains right view, enters the stream, it takes some time and then the wisdom matures and he attains fruit. When he attains fruit, there are 4 characteristics of a Sotapanna. He has unshakable faith in the Buddha, unshakable faith in the Dhamma, unshakable faith in the Sangha, and he has Aryan Sila. Now, what is Aryan Sila? Is it the 5 precepts? It is not. Is it the 8 precepts? It is not. Is it the 227 precepts? It is not. The Aryan Sila is found in the Aryan Eightfold Path. There are 3 factors, namely right speech, right action, and right livelihood. Right speech has 4 precepts. Not to lie, not to engage in divisive speech. That means you hear A talking bad about B, you don't go and tell B, last night A said this and that, causing them to quarrel. The 3rd precept is not to engage in coarse or vulgar speech, foul mouth. The 4th precept is not to engage in idle gossip. And then right action consists of 3 precepts. Not to kill, not to take what is not given. It means not to steal, and then not to engage in sexual misconduct. Right livelihood is covered by these 2. If you have right speech and right action, you will have right livelihood. So you see from these 3 factors, it is only 7 precepts. These 7 precepts is the earliest precepts found in the suttas. But later, one of the monk's disciples got mabuk, chui liao. Because of drinking liquor, he became intoxicated. Then after that, the Buddha made the drinking precept. So if you drink a little bit, not too bad, you can still become like Sarakani or Sotapanna. So, it is said, let me continue. Okay, Sotapanna also has 7 lives left, maximum. There are some Sotapanna, 1 lifetime they enter Nibbana. Some after 2 or 3 lifetimes. The maximum is 7 lifetimes, that person will enter Nibbana. Nibbana is eternal bliss. Nibbana paramang sukhang. The highest bliss is Nibbana. So, 7 lives. So because of that, the Buddha said, once you enter the stream, the suffering that is left is negligible compared to a putujana, an ordinary worldling. An ordinary worldling will go round the cycle of rebirth endlessly. In that long cycle of rebirth, he will fall into the ghost realm countless times, in the animal realm countless times, into hell countless times. Whereas for a Sotapanna, even if he comes back, he will never be reborn in the 3 woeful planes. He will only be reborn as a human and as a Deva or Devi. And when he comes back as a human or Deva or Devi, he has great blessings. He has 4 characteristics called Ayu, Vano, Sukhang, Balang. Ayu is long life, Vano is beauty, Sukhang is happy, always happy. And 4th is Balang. Balang is fame and power. So, it is so good to be an Arya. The Buddha said, even attaining stream entry is better than becoming the king of the whole world. Even better than becoming a Deva or a Devi. Because you are secure already, safe from the 3 woeful realms of rebirth. In the Samyutta Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya 43, it is said, after a person attains right view, that means you have attained first path or first fruit, 5 conditions are needed. You need to practice 5 other factors before you attain liberation. And what are these 5 factors? 1 is Sila. 1 is Dhammasavana. Sila is precepts. Dhammasavana is listening to the Dhamma. 3rd one is Dhammasakacha, discussion of the Dhamma. And then Samatha. Samatha is meditation to attain the jhanas. Vipassana is contemplation. Contemplation is what you do in everyday life, practicing right effort and right mindfulness. The 6 and 7 factors of the Aryan Eightfold Path. Samatha is the 8th factor. So you see, these 5 factors needed for final liberation. 1 is Sila. Sila you will get as a result of right view. Once you have right view, you will naturally keep your precepts. So, 2nd one is Dhammasavana, listening to the Dhamma. 3rd one is Dhammasakacha, discussion of the Dhamma, and then meditation and contemplation. So you see, even just to attain right view, you need to listen to the Dhamma. And after you attain right view, if you want to be an Arahant, you still have to need to listen to the Dhamma. So you see, the Dhamma is so important. Some people don't realize, they don't want to listen to the suttas. So I think that's all I need to say for now. Invite questions.
Thank you, Bhante, for the Dhamma talk. I think I want to maybe, how to say, just now Bhante saying about the meditation and listening to the Dhamma. And we do understand that Buddha teaches about Eightfold Path from speech, Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. About the meditation, if somebody meditates, whether he listens to the Dhamma or not, but by doing meditation, does it mean that he actually practices the Dhamma? One. The second one is, if you see what the meditation, when we meditate, actually we practice the nearly full Eightfold Path. Yeah, by meditation we are doing right concentration, right mindfulness, which is the Samadhi part, and we do have the right view and right understanding. Because by doing meditation, what we do is we understand if somebody use the rising or falling of the abdomen, or somebody using the breath, so he understands, he knows it, and from there we can have a right understanding and a right view. So does it mean that it nearly fulfill the whole Eightfold Path? And it might also lead to so-called enlightenment. Of course, we do not say that listening to Dhamma is not important, or it is important, but maybe by doing the meditation, and it might sharpen the understanding of the Dhamma itself, even without literally listening to the Dhamma itself. Thank you.
So your question is whether just by meditation you fulfill the Aryan Eightfold Path, yeah? Unfortunately, you don't, because we find before the Buddha was enlightened, we had many yogis in India who were very sincere in meditating, and they practiced meditation so hard. Many of them attained psychic powers, but you could not find an Arya at that time. Cannot find a Sotapanna, cannot find a Sakadagamin, Anagamin or Arahant. Just by meditation, you clear your mind, you will become intelligent. But if you don't listen to the true Dhamma of the Buddha, you cannot become an Arya. Now, even listening to the Dhamma, you need to have a clear mind. You need to have a mind that can focus. That's why the two conditions for right view and stream entry is listening to the true Dhamma and focus attention. So if you are a person with a scatterbrained person, you cannot focus your mind, you won't be able to understand the Dhamma. So in the suttas, the Buddha said, let an intelligent man come to me, honest and straightforward. I will teach him the Dhamma. So you got to be intelligent. If you are not intelligent, honest and straightforward, you don't have the blessings enough to become a Sotapanna. That's why the Buddha put right view in the beginning of the Aryan Eightfold Path. He did not put meditation. But meditation, if you practice samatha meditation, it helps to train your mind to focus. If you started off as a scatterbrain, and then you keep meditating, you are able to focus your mind, and then when you listen to the Dhamma, you can understand. So, meditation helps, but it is not the essential factor. In the Anguttara Nikaya, Sutta 3.86 and also 9.12, it is said, when you practice the Aryan Eightfold Path, you are perfecting three things, Sila, Samadhi and Panya. Moral precepts, concentration and wisdom. And it is said, a Sotapanna and a Sakadagamin has perfect Sila. In other words, the 7 precepts. An Anagamin has perfect Sila and perfect Samadhi. Perfect Samadhi is the 4 jhanas. Yeah. So an Anagamin, to become an Anagamin, the condition is you must have the 4 jhanas. And an Arahant has 3 Sila, Samadhi and Panya. Perfect. Sila, Samadhi and Panya. So an Arahant also must have 4 jhanas before he can become an Arahant. Now concerning Sotapanna and Sakadagamin, there are some monks say that to become a Sotapanna, you need the first jhana. But there is a sutta which contradicts this. Okay. This sutta, there's only one sutta that says very clearly that a Sotapanna does not need any jhana. This is Samyutta Nikaya 55.40. I forgot to mention just now. In this sutta 55.40, the Buddha talked about 2 types of Sotapanna. One is the diligent Sotapanna, one is the negligent Sotapanna. The diligent Sotapanna is after he has become a Sotapanna, he makes further effort to attain jhana. He struggles day and night to attain jhana. That's the diligent Sotapanna. The negligent Sotapanna is after he has attained Sotapanna, he's a bit lazy and doesn't strive to attain the jhanas. So this sutta shows very clearly that a Sotapanna does not need any jhana. But however, the Sakadagamin, although he does not have perfect Samadhi, which is 4 jhanas, he needs at least the first or the second or the third jhana. Because the Sakadagamin has reduced greed, hatred and delusion. Greed, hatred and delusion is part of the 5 hindrances. And the only way to suppress the 5 hindrances is Samadhi. So, to become a Sakadagamin, second fruit, you need at least 1, 2 or 3 jhanas. Sotapanna, definitely you don't need any jhana. You need to be intelligent, you need to hear the true Dhamma, and you need to have focused attention when you listen. Okay? So the stress is on listening to the Dhamma. Meditation is an accessory, it helps. Just like it helps not to eat too much. Eat too much and then you become very sleepy. And then your mind, you tend to have sloth and torpor.
Thank you very much. I think last night in the talk you also said the jhanas, if you are diligent Sotapanna, you want to achieve jhana. Then you said also there's different definition of jhanas. The jhana that defined in the suttas are different from the jhana defined in the Abhidhamma. What are the essential differences between the two sets of definitions?
The jhana in the suttas is different from the jhana in Visuddhimagga. Visuddhimagga is a book that was written 900 years after the Buddha's passing away. So certain things they say are correct, certain things they say are not correct. That's why I mentioned last night that the Buddha said in the Digha Nikaya, Sutta 29, that his teachings are perfect and complete. If you think you want to add to his words, you don't see his Dhamma, you don't have right view. If you think you want to subtract from his words, you also don't see his Dhamma, don't have right view. So what the Buddha is implying is that those monks who say more than what the Buddha said by writing later books, in Malay we say cakap banyak, then they don't have right view, they are not Arya. So in the suttas we find Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta 111, where the Buddha talked about Venerable Sariputta attaining the different jhanas. Then the Buddha said that when Venerable Sariputta attains the first jhana, he is extremely mindful. Whatever feelings arise, for example, delight, happiness, he is aware of it. If it still continues, he is aware of it. If it goes away, also he is aware of it. Whatever perceptions arise, he is aware. They stay, he is aware. They go away, he is aware. Etc. So, when a person attains the jhanas, he is very, very mindful. Even more so, in the 4th jhana, 3rd and 4th jhana, it is mentioned that the monk is very mindful, especially in the 4th jhana. The Buddha said, when a person attains the 4th jhana, he has perfect purity of sati and upeka. Perfect purity, parisuddhi, perfect purity of mindfulness. He's so mindful that after he comes out of the fourth jhana, a person with the fourth jhana can remember his past lives. 1 life, 10 lives, 100 lives, 1,000 lives, hundreds and thousands of lives he can remember. His mind is not a blur mind like most of us. So it is a characteristic of the jhanas that you are never more mindful than when you are in the jhana. Unfortunately, some monks, they don't understand, like the Sayadaw U Pandita in his book, In This Very Life, he said, what's the use of jhana? There is no mindfulness when you are in jhana. Exactly what he said in this book. Maybe he's talking about some other jhana. So the jhana in Visuddhimagga is quite different. They are focusing on the light. So when they focus on the light, they attain a state of concentration. We don't argue that it is concentration, but they are only aware of the light. They are not aware of changing feelings. They are not aware of changing perceptions, etc. And they don't have the 5 jhana factors. They are not aware of the 5 jhana factors when they are in the jhana, in the first jhana. After they withdraw from that state, then they contemplate their heart, and then they say, oh, just now when I was in that state, I have the 5 jhana factors. But that is an afterthought. Sorry, I have to be very blunt. Say again. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yes, you are very aware of those factors. It's very unfortunate. There are some monks. There's one monk, also another famous monk. He said, the jhanas are not the Buddha's teachings. The jhanas are external sect teachings. Because some of these monks, they're so caught up with the Abhidhamma, they think the Abhidhamma is the highest Dhamma. They don't bother to study the suttas. So it's very unfortunate you find this view in some Theravada monks. It's the same as Mahayana. They look down on the Pali Sutta. They say Xiao Cheng.
Slightly related to what Bhante has just mentioned, there's a question about whether Abhidhamma is the teachings of the Buddha and whether as a Buddhist we should study Abhidhamma.
They have made investigation, some scholar monks, and they know that this Abhidhamma was created later. There was a time when Buddhism broke into many schools, many sects. During Emperor Asoka's time, I think there were about 20 sects. And according to these historians, like for example Akira Hirakawa, the professor of Buddhism in Tokyo University, he has since passed away. He said that the different sects, they had their own Abhidhamma. Every school got their own Abhidhamma. Differing views. So now it seems we have left with 2. One is our Theravada, I think, and the other one is Vastivadin. So you find like now our Theravada monks follow the Abhidhamma. There are 7 books. Out of these 7 books, the earliest 3, the first 3, they don't contradict the Buddha. They don't say more than what the Buddha said. But the later 3 or 4 books, they added a lot of things. Kalapa, Bhavanga, Javana, Patisandhi Chitta, Chuti Chitta, all these things that the Buddha never spoke. This is one of the characteristics of later writings. They say more than what the Buddha said. They don't realize the Buddha said his teachings are perfect and complete. You don't need to add to his words. You cannot make it more perfect. You cannot make it more complete. In other words also, our Buddha Gautama is the best Buddha you can find. Any other Buddha can only equal our Buddha Gautama. You cannot surpass our Buddha Gautama. Because our Buddha Gautama's teachings in the 5 Nikayas are complete, perfect,